Hey, look, we're here. Hey, everybody, welcome to another wonderful session of Sankofa Sessions with Kofi and Kofi. Kofi, what's going on, my man? How you doing today?
What's going on, man? I'm good. I'm good. We
Hey,
we we,
yeah,
we cold. But we making it.
yeah, it is one of those things. I mean, it's we would love to normally meet at our special place, our happy place, which is Resist Booksellers in Petersburg, Virginia. Shout out to Demetrius. But unfortunately, with the impending weather, I guess national, what is it called? A state of emergency, excuse me. State of emergency and the weather and the roads. We said we're gonna play it safe. So you get to hear us via StreamYard because we want to be safe and sound. So we'll get back to our normal location, but until then, we'll be joining you guys from StreamYard in the comfort of our own homes, offices, whatever the case may be. But Kofi, we got two guests today, man. Who are these guys?
I was about to ask you who are these strangers? Folks just popping up in our podcast, man.
I claim one of them, man. That's the only one I can afford. I don't know if I have room for two.
I kind of recognize the other one in red. He be every now and again. I see him downstairs in my raid in my kitchen. But anyway.
Wow, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he looked like you too. So I mean, hey,
that's the only time I see him when he's right in the kitchen. Other than that, I don't see him no other time. But as you can tell, to our guests out there, these are our kids. These are two of our sons. And the topic for of discussion today is raising kids in mixed cultural households, and what are the implications of that? How do we pass on culture? What gets kept? What gets left behind? We're going to talk about all of that. So we're going to keep it kind of a round table like discussion today, because there are probably some things that they want to know about us, and so we're going to let them ask us some questions. We're going to ask them some questions, and we're just gonna chop it up, man. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And I claim the one in black. I think that's my son. Sincere, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Uh, Sorry for the snow, but not for the ice. Supposed to be a lot of ice.
It is, and shout out to your sisters too. I didn't want the children who were going to say bad things about me to be on. So what I did was I stacked the deck and brought my favorite kid. And I know that if the son, excuse me, my daughters are going to listen to this, she probably going to be like, I'm your favorite. So we'll just keep it what it is. But yeah,
yeah.
raising
And
children across.
this is
Mhm.
like I said, this is totally unscripted. We don't know what they're gonna say. We didn't prep them. We didn't prompt them. So if anything crazy come out, it's
I'm for it.
it is what it is. So we'll just withhold food later. But
That is true. That is true. So, hey,
okay.
I want to ask you guys, Jaden. I want to ask you one of the first questions, man. So, you are an adult. I think you're 21, 22,
22 now.
22 now. Okay, right. So you've had the whole full spectrum of being raised by your dad now into adulthood. You got to tell me, how was it growing up, given his Guyaning? Oh, how you pronounce it? Guyanese.
Guyanese, right, right.
Guyanese, excuse me, Guyanese heritage, and well, how was he as a parent? Was he that strict West Indian parent, or was he pretty laid back? Do tell.
Oh, well, like I guess
Don't look around.
from the stories that I've heard and like the other people I've known to have like West Indian parents, Caribbean parents, just I guess foreign parents in general, he wasn't like all the way on the extreme where he was like, I was like living in jail or prison. I wasn't like it was very structured though. There was definitely a lot of structure, especially compared to a lot of my peers, um, namely. Well, no, yeah, definitely just didn't necessarily have as much freedom to watch TV or play video games whenever I wanted. There was definitely like a regiment. There was definitely some guidelines I had to stick to. But other than that, I'll say like overall relatively lax, relatively chill, I guess.
Man, you looked around earlier like he was trying to prompt you into saying something. So I hope all of this is free will and free speech. We do live in a free country. You know. So
I'm
Kofi, I gotta
necessary.
ask you, man, how would you rate your parenting? Not from a number, but just from your style. Did you pick up anything from your mom and your culture? Like, how did you make that mix? Because being in America, we are a product of where we live at, but also being an immigrant, we're also products of our tradition and heritage.
Yeah, yeah, no. So I think my parents. So I actually credit my wife, Jade's mom, as to kind of balance me out a little bit, because there's definitely some things that I probably, if it was just left up just to me, I'd probably been a lot stricter or had a lot even more regiment and things like that. So, it, by her being an African American, an American, a woman, I think she had a different parenting style that she grew up with, which was a lot more lax. And she's also a woman too, so it's probably a little bit of the gender influence, a little bit of cultural influence mixed in there. But I think I was definitely more of the one to like hold them accountable and set schedules and things like that. And that's still going on to this day, by the way. So
Oh wow,
that don't
okay.
stop. That don't stop till in adulthood. Apparently, I mean, am I wrong, Jay?
I mean, definitely a lot less so since I turned like 18 after I became an adult. But no, he still tries. Yeah.
Yeah, I still try. He ain't washed dishes in about a week.
All right. All right.
But I
So
ain't
Jaden,
saying
I
that.
got a question
I
for
ain't
you,
saying
right?
that.
If I could. Now, for you comparing to your peers, right? How has that shaped you as an adult? Because I think the one thing, and Kofi, help me out in this. The one thing we as parents always wonder is how did our lessons and raising them affect them into adulthood. So you had about a couple of years of adulthood now. Have you really, really seen the difference in how you were raised compared to others, and has it been beneficial for you?
Well, so one thing he definitely emphasized, like growing up, was keeping us informed and educated. And through like meeting more and more people from more diverse backgrounds, I've definitely noticed that a lot of people's parents didn't really put an emphasis on that, and you could just see that in the way they interact or talk about the world or kind of their narrow perspectives. I also do appreciate the different uh, things he would encourage us or sometimes force us to do, be that like activities outside of school, because I feel like do having like such a diverse background definitely helped me just become a more well-rounded person.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Sincere, how about
And
you?
Kofi, how do you feel about like your? Oh man, don't come to me yet. Come on, come on there. You got to hold off a
No,
bit,
no,
right? You got to
no.
let me,
No, we gotta
because look,
get off the hot seat for a
he's still
minute.
a
No,
kid.
no.
He's still a kid.
I'm,
No, I'm messing with you guys. I'm messing with you guys.
So me personally, I think a lot of people there's a difference in the way that they treat other people. Like you know some things like when you go out with your friends, the way they talk to strangers and the way they talk to like waitresses and everything. Some people I feel like they don't have like a general respect for other people. Like sometimes I wonder it's like, well, you've never really been you've never put yourself in that person's shoes. Like I feel like sometimes you realize it's like, dang, it's like either I feel like some people they haven't exactly realized like oh what it means to be in a struggle or necessarily to think of other people in a certain way, like a lack of empathy for some people.
I can see that. I can see that. Did
So sincere, you
yeah.
saying what did you learn?
I mean, mainly from you and Ma. Like you guys always, especially you, you were always out trying to help people, always trying to better community, things like that. and Ma was she's a nurse, so of course that's one place I learned it from.
I was gonna just throw in there. Is there
Wow, I
when
didn't
it
I didn't even know you know that.
yeah? I was gonna ask real quick. So when like as far as like the cultural aspects, like some of the more I mean, we talked about some of like the behavioral things, but like is there anything like culturally that you intentionally try to pass on, like whether it's like knowledge of history or food or music, or how do you balance like that type of cultural things that you're trying to pass down to the next generation? And sincere, did you pick up on it? I guess that'll be a follow up to to the question.
So they're gonna laugh, and his sisters, if they ever see this, they're gonna laugh at this because when we um, used to sit at the kitchen table, or dinner table, whatever it was back in the day, I used to quiz them about Ghana, and I used to promise them money, and I would give them money. I think I used to give y'all money, didn't y'all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Sometimes I think I did that. Sometimes I did. I gave y'all money, and I would give them money, and I would ask them basic questions like, "What was Ghana's colonial name? Who was the first president? What's the colors of the flag, and things like that." And I did that for many years. So like now, they already know. Oh, when I ask them the question, like, "How we don't know that? You've done that to us for many years since we were little kids." So I've always tried to drop little nuggets. I've done not a great job, in my opinion. I feel like I could have done more. One of the biggest regrets, especially for you, sincere, I didn't have an outdooring. In Ghanaian culture, when a child is born and they get their, they get christened and they get their name, you know, um, especially the Ghanaian name, they have an outdooring. I didn't do that.
Wait, what is
It
that?
was just I was really young. It's called an outdooring.
Okay,
Yeah,
outdooring.
yeah, and I didn't do that. Oh,
Okay.
go ahead.
What is it though? Like what's the process or
So what happens is the elder comes up. The elder holds the baby, and they recite, certain things. And one of the more prominent factors of the ceremony is that they have two cups. They'll take a finger and they'll dip the cup in water, and they'll say something and say like, "Hey, the baby knows how water tastes, yada yada yada." But then they also dip it in some liquor, and they'll say, "Oh," and depending on how the baby reacts, they'll say, "Oh, well, the baby he knows the taste," and they'll explain why they do that. Um, I've seen it done here. Actually, one of my good friends, one of his family elders did it, but they were African American. Um, but the outdooring is big because that's basically saying, hey, the baby's old enough to be around family. Also, the baby's old enough to be welcomed into the family and friends and everything like that. And unfortunately, sincere, as soon as you were born, we moved. So I didn't get a chance to do that. That's one of my biggest regrets. I didn't do that with your sisters at all either. So, I think there's some regrets when it comes to when you move to this country, you don't get a chance to do those cultural things.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to follow up on that too. Like, so I came to the States when I was 12. So like I honestly know way more American culture than Guyanese culture or Caribbean culture. I lived, even though I lived there for the first 12 years, I was still a kid. So like there are a lot of things, traditions, and customs that were like not I didn't really absorb. Just because I pretty much grew up here. So I'm very much a hybrid. So like and Guyana. I mean, we don't have as strong customs as like say Ghana. I would say I don't, not to my knowledge or whatever, because we're in a diaspora just like like Americans. So there is still another layer of removed from a lot of traditional customs and things like that because we went through the same process of colonial not enslavement and being separated from our heritage, just like African American, people. So so I think for me, some of the strongest customs or things that I could remember that was passed down to me is things like around food, music,
Mhm.
things like that I still had a connection to, but some of the things like you mentioned, like naming things like that we were didn't really have that passed down to me, so I couldn't pass that down necessarily to my son. You know.
So if I could, Kofi, the funny thing about I didn't have an outdooring, right? And it
Mm,
goes to your point earlier, and sincere. I would love for you to answer this as well, especially for the boys. I love my daughters. I love them with all my heart. But especially like in West African culture, the boys pass on the family name. There's some tribes that are matrilineal where the women tend to be more of the dominant ones, but many of the tribes, especially in Ghana, are paternal, where a lot of the customs and everything, the heritage and the traditions come from the father's side. So, my grandfather and my grandmother are two separate tribes, Ewe and Fanti. But my dad mainly subscribes to his Fanti side because he spent the majority time with my grandmother. So he's taught me a lot of Fanti traditions and things like that. So one of the things that I said, hey, he growing up in America, me being half and then sincere being 1/4, you lose traditions. Sincere has a long name.
Yeah.
He has a really long name. So I'm not gonna put his whole government name out there on the internet, but Sincere has one, two, three. But you got four names.
Yeah.
I think four names, and we
Yeah. It's
made
for
sure that one of his names, yeah, we made sure one of his names was a traditional, um, you know, um, Ghanaian name, Kwabena, because that I had to make sure as my boy, he has that lineage at least passed on. So hopefully, if he has a son, or even with his daughters, he'll do the same. Kofi, I would like to know what did you give Jaden from your Guyanese like culture? I know you say you're a hybrid, but still the culture is still deep inside of you. Like, what little things did you do with him to make sure he had an identity with his country?
So actually, can before I get to that, can I ask Sincere a question though? And I guess
Mhm.
both Sincere and Jade, um, because what you said just now actually just kind of triggered something for me. So about like the name, right? Were you ever like embarrassed by your full name or anything associated with the culture? Either of you, or is there anything that you felt like I need to like do something to more blend in and not feel like not wear my culture outwardly? And so to piggyback on that, I guess this actually segues, kind of ties in with your question to me, Kofi. Um, so about maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe longer, I'm not sure at this point, but I actually changed my name to Kofi, right? And the entire family, we changed our name to Kofi to be more associated with our heritage. Like we had like this Irish name, Kilkenny, which my elder son, he actually changed his name back to Kilkenny when he became 18. But the idea behind that was to kind of reconnect with our African ancestry a little bit more stronger. Um, so I could see how like the name or like not wanting to associate it with the culture so directly could be a problem and an issue. So I'm just wondering how y'all feel about that.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll go first. Me personally, I've never really had a problem with it. For me, since ID is ADIH, I was always in the front at the first in line. So for me personally, throughout my elementary days, I really enjoyed it. It was always being a line leader and things like that. Um, my
So,
middle
so
name, I never really had a problem with it because mainly most people never knew about it. I never really told anybody about it. It was more of if they found out, it was because either they talked to my dad about it or they found out through the attendance list. But even then, it was never really a big problem with it. I remember I used to mispronounce it a lot because, well, I never really knew how to pronounce it. I remember one day asking him, I was like, "Oh, that's how you pronounce it?" And I didn't realize there was a second part to my middle name either until about maybe fifth grade. And then I found out, oh, that there was a second part to my middle name, Thomas, named after my grandfather. But for the most part, I've never really been ashamed or have problems with my
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had either. Like there was an adjustment period after we did change our last names. Um, but I would just say that's more so because I lived like the first like 11, 12 years of my life like as Kilkenny. Um, but like from a heritage standpoint, I never had any issue with uh being tied to it like outwardly.
Oh, okay. I mean, I know I did. Like, so when I first came here, in hindsight, I kind of regret doing this, but I definitely tried to shun my heritage a little bit, or my because I had this, thick Caribbean accent. And at the time, like everybody who was, if you, no matter where you're from, if you black and you're not American, like you was an African booty scratcher, all this other stuff. This was middle school, so like the kids, my middle school was rough. So yeah, like you got picked on, teased, bullied, all that stuff. Like this was before bullying was even talked about. Like, or at least it was, not like today. Like, you know, it, kids, they're encouraged not to bully. Back then in my schools, like it was just so common that and nobody even batted an eye about it. But that was definitely I tried really hard to get rid of my accent. Like I tried really hard to like bury anything about me that didn't look or sound American. And I kind of regret that in hindsight, because I went a long period of time not trying just to fit in. So
Yeah, I think we all go through that a part of assimilation. I think that the time that you're born and what generation you're born in speaks to that. Like Sincere mentioned something. My dad's first name is Thomas because during their time it was customary to give you a quote unquote English first name so that way you could navigate society, right? But then your Ghanaian name would be like Echo or Kofi, or Kwame or Kwabina, or something like that. So even though at home you're getting called your traditional Ghanaian name to the world, especially when you traveled abroad, and as many of them did, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and up into the 90s, you know, when they came here, oh, it's Thomas. Hey, oh, it's William. Oh, it's, James. But
mm,
then during the 80s, like when some of us were born, 70s and 80s, it was a pride thing to give the children the name. And even though we went through it in the 90s being called butt scratches and all other stuff, right? There was a return to this black awareness that and we talked about it in one of our previous episodes, if I could, where there was a time where there was a back to Africa black empowerment movement that was going on from the late 80s to maybe the early to mid 90s, especially when, Public Enemy, and then also you had the Nation of Islam that was very prominent. I always talk about that. My dad going to take me to the Richmond Coliseum to go see Farrakhan. I think it was either 93 or 94. But I say that to say this. Now, we're the parents, everybody wants to go back. Even my good brother Kofi, you have a after school program where kids want to learn more about their ancestral roots. That wouldn't have happened in the 90s, right?
mm,
You got people
right, right.
actively moving back to Africa, wherever they're from, and trying to get, citizenship. That would have never happened based on the political climate and also the cultural climate in the 90s and the early 2000s. So for somebody like Sincere, it was a no-brainer to name my kid and give him a piece of heritage. It's just funny how times have changed. I think you guys will agree to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, did anybody check out the stream I Shall Speed when he was touring around Africa?
Yeah.
All parts.
I did. I would love to hear your opinion, especially the one in Morocco, because I wish you had called me. I'd have said I told you so.
Yeah, no, that was I thought that was great because I think especially to younger generations who probably never thought about Africa themselves, you have somebody who is connecting with them, older and younger, honestly. I mean, but definitely younger for sure. And giving him a window into Africa and seeing how much love he received there was great. And I think stuff like that could have some really lasting impacts in the community. Now, as far as the Morocco stuff, oof, yeah, that was rough. I
I
mean,
got my jersey on. I got my jersey on. Hey, Black Star.
Yeah, I also
yeah,
really liked how he just got to like show, because it's like a live stream. It's like hours on end, hours, days. So you got to like just really like see the culture. Like a lot of people that have an idea of Africa got to like really truly like see it, like living and breathing.
Yeah. That Morocco episode, and we are Africa by continent, but man, people don't understand there is a divide between sub-Saharan Africa, which is a manufactured term. I'm not going to get into it, and Saharan Africa or Arab Africa is a big it's a big divide. And not to go too far off, you know, history oftentimes teach us lessons that are either going to be forgotten or have already been forgotten. People don't understand that, like even the Romans and even in Carthage, those parts of North Africa were settled by many people. So you got a mixture of people, like many places in Africa, but you had a direct mix of people between the Arabs, invaders, the indigenous people, and also the people from the Mediterranean that mixed there. And yeah, I show speed. I was like, wow. I said, wish somebody had told you that before,
mm.
But hey, he'll get it right next time, you know. Hey, I got a question for Jaden and Sincere. So, given that you guys are a generation or two removed, I think Sincere, look, man, you're gonna have to look. You're gonna have to marry a Ghanaian girl to keep the bloodline strong because your children are gonna be like 1/8, right?
Yeah.
What? How do you think, or right now in your current state, and I know you both are young men, how do you feel like you're going to carry on your traditional roots and the heritage and the things that you learn? What are some of the things you said, hey, when I grow up, this is one of the things I'm gonna do with my family, or I'm gonna keep ties to my heritage. I'm curious to know.
I feel like one of the biggest ways the Guyanese culture was passed down to me was through food. Um, so I definitely want to keep a lot of the same like recipes and a lot of the things that I learned just through like living in my dad's house or working at the restaurant. I definitely want to pass that down. I also want to make trips to Guyana a thing. We've been trying to go back to Guyana for like 12 years now, and hasn't happened. But
This year,
yeah,
this
definitely.
year, this year, it's happening
Yeah.
this year.
Okay. Don't clap. Man. He says that every year. um,
Same
but
as me.
yeah.
It's expensive. Hell.
I know, you've grown now. You can buy your own ticket. Don't try to look at me now.
But no, yeah, I definitely want to be able to expose my children to that culture firsthand.
For me personally, like Jaden said, I've learned a lot of it through food from grandfather. He always has some type of fufu, stew, jollof rice, always cooking. It's always good. That's one way I want to keep it alive. And another way is keep in touch with relatives in Africa, like our elder Uncle Sammy and other like Auntie and Uncle Kofi. Well, the other Uncle Kofi.
There's so many of us.
Yeah,
I know.
there's so many. There's so many. That and also just teaching about it, teaching them about the history, like like my dad did, and
But
keeping in
actually
touch.
pay
Yeah,
them.
that's one. Eh,
Mm,
yeah, yeah.
And I think that, Kofi, I think you can attest to this too, man. That warms your heart because oftentimes it's very easy in this country to just fall in line and do whatever, and kind of your culture kind of becomes a thing of the past. So I give kudos to both you gentlemen for wanting to do that. So
Yeah,
Kofi, well, we got a challenge, man. These young men said we need to take them back home.
I know, right?
You know,
Well, look, Jaden, again,
no,
you
no.
you you grown.
I'm in
You
college.
at least
You know,
semi grown.
I got a responsible pro
You
college student.
you
You know.
just you just got back from Dominican Republic, sir.
Okay.
What do you
woo!
mean? So you can go there like you've done been there like 2 or 3 times. So look, don't try to blame me.
That's close.
But no, I do. So I mean, I think one of the things that is coming up in this conversation is that passing on culture has to be intentional. It's uh, especially when you're not living in the culture every day. It definitely something that has to be like you have to be thought out. You have to and I probably have to make more effort to like cook traditional dishes or to teach or to things like that because me myself like I'm also on this journey myself too because I came here so young. So it's like there's certain things that I'm still learning myself, and I probably could do a better job at like intentionally like whether it's forwarding videos or whatever, like connecting with family or things like that probably there's always room to do better. So that's probably one of the takeaways from this.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I'm the same. I was born here. Fortunately, I have a direct link. My father, and then my mom lived over there for many years. Even though my mom is African American, she lived there for many years. But I have direct relatives. That's from there. So it's been a challenge here because for majority, I asked my baby daughter. I said, "Hey, sweetie," I said, "What's your link to Ghana?" And she said, "Well, Papa." She she
Hmm.
didn't she didn't attribute it to her, and she's still young. She's 10, but she attributed that only my dad was from there. She didn't even say me. So you're right. We have to do a better job. And sincere, yes, I owe you a trip. And I'm not gonna put our business out there, but we have an invitation to be in Ghana later this year for a big family event. So whatever nickels, coins, pennies I gotta rub together, we gotta be there because I don't want smoke from that family member. Um, but that's such a good point that if you don't embrace it or you don't teach, it will be lost quickly. And how many of us in this country have met somebody that they have a name that's not the typical American name or English name, and then you ask them and they say, "Oh yeah, my dad. Oh yeah, my mom." But then you ask and they say, "Well, I don't know much about it." And I think that's one thing we have to do in a diaspora, and even for those who are here. Uh, Shout out to those who have direct links to the culture, because for instance, excuse me, you know, um, we have a relative that they have family from South Carolina that can tie their lineage back to the Geechee, and they have embraced the whole Geechee culture because of that you know them learning more about it and traveling down there and learning more down there on Gullah Island and things like that. But if you don't do the research, oftentimes things get lost to history, and it's a shame. It's definitely a shame because you can
Yeah,
share that with other people as well. So, young men, y'all got some work to do, man. We got to do a better job, but you guys got some work to do to pass things on.
yeah. I mean, and so like it, obviously we're grown, but we're still learning, and like and I think it's important to keep the context of like we're all everybody every person of African descent in the diaspora in general is on a journey because we've all been disconnected from the time we set foot on this continent. or these continents to disassociate ourselves. And so it's like everything that we know about our culture is somebody had to take an effort to teach ourselves. I mean, we see what's going on in the schools, like they're banning books, they're doing everything that they can to like keep telling us to forget about the past, forget about your heritage, forget about your culture. So it's like it's not just sometimes like yeah, we don't just like not know, but we've been intentionally separated. So it's like we're gonna do what we can, but you have also have to do what you can to because you might even learn some things and might be able to teach us some things about our culture too. This is a constant learning thing that we're all going through.
I have to give a shout out to Sincere and Sincere had a group project. No, excuse me, not a group project, an individual project last year. Called the was it called the Living History Project?
Yeah, it was.
The Living History Project, where he had to record somebody or interview somebody, excuse me, that an older person that saw some historic events. I guess when you're old, you see history. I guess that's kind of how it works. So Kofi, you and I have seen history, I guess, right? We're historical. Um, he got with my father, and I have that file. I have that, and I was really impressed by you, Sincere, because I know Papa gave you a lot of history lessons, things you probably never even knew.
Yeah, he did. It was a lot. Yeah, the transcript took
Can
me
you talk
forever to
about
do,
that?
but yeah. Well, you still have the file, right? The
I
transcript
do.
and the USB, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
It was interesting because a lot of it he never really mentioned because I don't think anyone ever really asked him. That's one thing I feel like we've got to do more often. We have to ask our elders and older people about their experiences and the things they've gone through. Not only just checking in on them, but also in a way to learn more about them and grow closer to them. But it was interesting because a lot of these things I don't think he's told anyone in a while, and because he was kind of stubborn on about it because well it happened a while ago, it happened a long time ago, and he never really told anybody about it.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see the way he got from Africa, what made him want to move, and what he did here when he first got here. Because he went by boat, he was on one of those big cargo ships with like a few of those you know, separate rooms, like guest rooms. Like he had to pay get on there. It was interesting because when he first got to America, he he got very lucky by finding some people who were a part of this group that were trying to teach kids in Africa about, well, not kids in Africa, kids in America about their African heritage and things like that. And he met this one lady who was a teacher, and she was teaching about that and invited him over and asked and told him, if you ever do come to America, I can hook you up with a place to stay. And he took her up on that offer and eventually came down to America, had a place to stay, and he got to see everything. I think he was first. Yeah, I think he first landed in Philadelphia, and
I saw.
eventually,
So before you go forward, I saw a Commanders Cup there. That's the reason why we are Philadelphia Eagles fan there. So my dad didn't know anything anywhere, but he knew about them Eagles. That says something about that great team there. You can go ahead, son.
I don't know
and
about
then
all that.
eventually,
No, go ahead.
yeah, you know what? Yeah. We'll
It
leave it at
makes sense
that.
though, right? Okay,
It does.
it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense why we. And I see your son. He's timely with
Yeah,
his props.
he needed a sip of water. I mean, what?
So so Kofi, my question is this to you. Um I know you had your own experience of coming here. Did you ever share that with your kids of how you arrived here and how different it was and the culture shock?
Did I?
Like you definitely, maybe not so much about the process of like you first getting here, but you definitely like shared how difficult like the assimilation process was. Um, you definitely shared that
How many times I
like
got beat up?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the,
It was
all
a
the
lot of
things,
that.
yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely have heard stories about the culture shock, about the just trying to fit in, but not so much about like first coming here. I honestly don't know the story of you like first coming to the States.
Honestly, it was all such a blur because when you're young, it's it's a lot of gaps in there. But we spent some time in New York with family in New York first. And speaking of which, that's how I was originally a Knicks fan. Because my original first team that I started watching was the Knicks. And then we moved to DC, and I became a Bullets fan. So,
Nice.
like, I see the connection now. Sometimes it's where you land. And I've been cursed with the Bullets, and I've passed that on. um, but yeah, no. So like, yeah, I came with spent some time in New York, spent some time, and then we moved directly to DC. Nothing too romantic about it, honestly. It's honestly was just really rough. We basically just like moved a lot. Spent like about we probably moved about 10 times in like 5 or 6 5 years or so, whatever. It's like constantly just moving to like different people's rooms, basements, here, there, and the other before we finally got our own apartment. And that was really not till yeah, like it took a while. It took a while for us to really be settled. Like I just remember moving a lot, because of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, really just struggling, not having much of anything. My whole childhood was, from the time we got here was a struggle. Which, ironically enough, like and my mom will, attest to this too. Is like we lived a much better life in the Caribbean. We were probably closer to middle class in the Caribbean, but we came to America for greater opportunity. But like those first decade or so, it wasn't until I was able to go to college and then, get a career that I even started living comfortably. But I spent all of my childhood just like dead broke. So it's like, are you sure this is better? Like,
Hmm.
so
And that's a heck of a sacrifice. And I think that Kofi and I, especially you more than me, because you actually came from Guyana, is man, our parents' sacrifice of picking up their adult lives and moving. That's a big thing, right? Can you
yeah,
imagine now, you at your age, my age, and we say, "Hey, we're going to take our whole family and move." That is something that I couldn't even imagine, And so we got to give them grace, and also give them a pat on the back if warranted to take that leap of faith. And hey, they may not did it the best way, but they took a leap of faith that many people wouldn't even take today, especially with kids. You know,
right,
it's
right,
it,
right.
it's something to be said about that. So wow, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, Jaden, I want to tell you, man, please, sky's the limit to you. Even though you're a Wizards fan, I don't know why your dad passed that on. That is that's a harsh that's a harsh
The future's bright. The future is bright.
We'll see.
that 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 is
Let me,
true.
let
That
me
is true, man.
can I
Mhm.
ask both of our sons this though? So is there anything that you wish we had done differently or a better job of when it comes to like imparting culture, or is it do we push too hard at some points, or is anything that you think like I don't know, that's probably not the didn't really like that too much or whatever.
Um, Not necessarily. I think I think there was a good balance of it. It was letting me adjust, but also teaching me about it. But maybe that's just because I haven't really seen the extreme side or the very lax side of it. I kind of had the perfect in between balance of it. But personally, I think it was the right way to go about it. I liked it, and it was free money too. So
I
I didn't have that over here. Um,
never Jade never I never gave him money. I just made him do stuff.
um, I wouldn't even necessarily say that there was something that I wish you had done more, um, in terms of like imparting culture, but I do kind of wish that I was able to be a little bit more knowledgeable and like kind of immersed into the culture, because I do like being Guyanese and being able to say that I'm Guyanese and being able to experience some aspects of the culture. But also there are times where I feel a little bit odd saying it because I don't think I have that much lived experience as a Guyanese person in Guyanese culture. So I definitely say, but also like neither do you. That's why I'm saying it's not necessarily something I would put on you because you have more experience in America than Guyana. But yeah, and I would probably say that you definitely probably pushed a lot more like African American culture and like DC culture uh, growing up. So I would say I definitely got a lot of that uh, from you more so than anything.
Okay.
Hey, Kofi, can I say something? One thing I want to impart to you, young men, right? And don't take it as an old man lecturing, right? Don't. I'm not doing the old man lecture thing, but it's a serious thing. Never feel like you're not enough of your culture to learn and love your culture. There's going to be gatekeepers, and Kofi can attest to this. There was times in my life where I would meet other um, Ghanaians, and they would be like, "Oh man, you in a kata, you African American, your mom." I said, "Man, my dad is from there. I've been back there many times. My grandma, my grandmother lives, right outside of Elmina Castle. I got a picture with her in my 1993 Bulls hoodie, right? I am Ghanaian. I just didn't grow up there." I said, "Damn it, my brother was born there." So never let anybody gatekeep the culture from you because the blood flows in you. So never feel like you're embarrassed or anything because trust me, it's going to be, if you don't embrace it, it's going to be something missing your whole entire life. Your home is your home and you didn't get a chance to choose it. So embrace it, love it, and go back as much as you can because you both know directly where your ancestral roots come from. So please, while you're young, for many years I did not go back. It took me 20 years to go back to Ghana because I had that same feeling you had, Jaden. And I wasted 20 years. And damn it, I won't waste another 20. So I tell you, get your passports as early as possible. It seems like one of you already got one, right?
Yeah.
Somebody been to the DR a couple
Yeah.
times. Not you, sincere. Uh,
I already
you
have my
know,
passport.
yeah, you do. You do. Okay, yeah. Don't flex on everybody. Okay, you got you. Right. But please, gentlemen, go back as much as you can, embrace it. Don't let anybody gatekeep the culture because of their own insecurities.
I love that, man. I'm not gonna add nothing to that. I think that's a great way to wrap things up, man. I'm not even
It
gonna
came from
touch
the
that,
heart, man.
man. Yeah, man. I love that. I think that's just right on the head, man. So
Hey, so Kofi, hopefully this weather will clear up and we'll get a chance to do a session in person. And to our young men, our sons, man, we sincere, I love you, man, and I appreciate you.
I love you too. Thank you.
yeah, you all right.
Done.
No, I love you too. Love you too. Love you too. So no, much love. Appreciate y'all joining us today, man. So yeah, no, I think this was a really great conversation, and I think hopefully for those out there, the audience, hopefully if you're going through the same thing or having a similar dynamic in your household, hope this helped to inform you and as the way you move through life and the way you pass things on to your kids. So thanks for joining.
No book of the week.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Oh no, no book of the week. Forgot. See, well, why you
Yeah,
gonna?
hey, I got a book of the week. I got a book of the week. Get your
Oh,
passport.
really? Actually, I have a
Book of
book
the
of the
week.
week. I have a book. I have a book. I have a book. I have a good book.
You
Okay,
have
okay.
Yeah, I
a
do.
book of the
It's
week,
one I'm
sincere?
reading. It's one I'm reading.
Whoa, whoa.
This
Oh
is a
my
book
gosh,
called Things Fall
I gotta see
Apart,
what book that is
and
before.
it was written by Chinua Achebe, and he is It's one of the first three novels of his critically acclaimed African trilogy. It's about it's about a warrior from this tribe. His father was very lazy. He was a lazy man. He couldn't exactly provide for his family, and him having grown up with that, he kind of grew to resent his father, and he honestly despised the way his father lived, and he grew up that way, hating everything his father did, and trying so hard to prevent his children and everything else from ending up that way that he it kind of resulted in his there being a growing resentment from him and his family, and eventually as a book is named, things fell apart. So it's a very good read. It goes into the mindset of people and the way that generational trauma can affect people. It's a very
Man, this
good
is a
book.
good plan now.
Man,
You know that one.
man, let's get this man an unpaid internship.
No, that's what's up, man. That's
That
a
is
great way
beautiful.
to close this thing out, man. Thanks, sincere, for
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
Hey, well, everybody, we love you, and until next time, be safe, loving your family, and get your
Peace.
passport. Take care, everybody. We out.
Bensound.com.